Well, hey everyone, welcome back. Another week at Island Church. Matt Lombardi here, joined with Pastor Will as always. Pastor Will, how you doing today?
Super. It's another great week.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're here to talk a little bit about what happened last week, what's coming up in the next few weeks. So, give us a quick recap of some of the wins from this past week.
Sounds good. I'd love to do that. Matt, it's early August, and here we are. We had a magnificent crowd on Sunday with some of our regular people, and then we had both guests, both first time guests and actually repeat guests. Several people that this is their second, third visit, fourth visit to us. And someone said, "What are we going to do in the fall with the people?" Because of the people that were there on Sunday. So it was a great Sunday. And then we had in the afternoon we had momentum. Um, which is where we actually first most important thing for some people we did get together and had ice cream, so it's kind of hard to mess that up.
Yeah, yeah,
Kind of hard to mess that up. So we had
yeah.
ice cream and just fellowship time together, and then at 6 o'clock we just celebrate what God had been doing in the life of our church and kind of where we're headed. There's all kinds of things that are going to be happening, but those are some of the big things. And let me mention one thing in terms of celebrating. We had quite a lot of our people pitch in different kinds of ways. We're just so thankful. We're blessed to have a church where people just take the initiative, they take the bull by the horn, and they just move things out. And we're in a community that's constantly changing, so it's a challenge there. But we honored recently Steve and Jolene Bivens, and some people recognize them, and some people, if you're newer to our church, you may not know them. They're actually sitting in the sound booth each Sunday, but they're both high-end professional people, and they just bring their skills and added to those skills to serve our church. One of the ways that they're serving, Steve has particularly recently, is to help us with our music. And so Steve's not singing up there on the stage. However, that great layered music that people hear, the professional music, he found some software and works weekly with Sandy and with Marcia Fox and our worship leaders up front, and puts together that music at just the right rhythms and the speeds and the style, and they just do a phenomenal job with that every week. And then they also get the PowerPoints, make those things fit so that people can join and sing right in. And so we honored Steve and Jolene with a small gift of our appreciation. But there's so many people in our church, Matt, that just pitch in, and so we're just so thankful for them.
That's amazing. Yeah. What an awesome just testament to what God's doing at the church, right? To see people just stepping in, using every skill possible to make Sundays happen. So speaking of Sundays happening, Sunday's always coming, right? Next week again.
All right.
What are some things that are happening in the life of the church? What's coming up maybe this week and in the weeks ahead?
Sounds good. This coming week, we're going to have our normal 8:45 School of Christian Living. I look forward to sharing. We've been talking about the armor of God and just the spiritual disciplines. That's in the context of spiritual disciplines, because it's important for us to know how to pray and some basics of spending time in the Word, and how do you meditate, how do you script, how do you memorize, and then Americans' favorite topic, that is fasting. So it's something we don't talk a lot about, but we spent 1 week talking about that. But we actually had Dave Champion, who was our chairman of our deacons and our kind of our assistant treasurer, and our people just know and love Dave. They actually just meet Dave out front each week, and he's there with a smile, and was out the last couple of weeks with family. But Dave purchased for us these coins, and maybe some of you have picked these up. These are just they just have the armor of God on them, and just to remind us that we're in a spiritual battle, and that we're trying to advance His kingdom, but we're going to be victorious in Christ. And so Dave just helps us with that. But that's going on in School of Christian Living. And then this coming week, I've been in a series in Psalms. I probably will stay one more week in Psalms. But this coming Saturday, we actually, even before we get to Sunday, we have a back to school bash. Maybe some of you've seen this poster that's out there. We're going to have all types of things, 5:30 to 7:30, but there's going to be a bounce house. There's going to be some refreshments like popcorn, and then we have a petting zoo of all things, or a petting contained area, right? And
Yeah.
for the kids to come and to engage with the animals, and so that's going to be a good thing. Actually, Sandy and I are going to have our youngest daughter and her husband and two children that are under 1 and under 3. So that'll be a good time to bring them. And if you know some people, if you have children or grandchildren in town this coming weekend, this Saturday, bring them out from 5:30 to 7:30. It's a time for us to connect with our community. We've got the word out, and so not a whole lot for our church family to do. This is fairly low intensive in terms of volunteers, but we'd love for you to come and to engage with the guests that come. And so there's just quite a number of kids on the island, which is part of the reason we got the Bridge of the Future, is because the number of kids that are getting here. That you're seeing the island become a little younger, And even if it's not, there's just nothing here for the kids, which is part of the reason we're trying to build a new building and engage with families and with younger and older families, actually. So this coming Saturday from 5:30 to 7:30. So that's coming up. And then actually next week, the women, Sandy and the women get started back next Tuesday at 10:30. They do coffee and chat at 9:30, which is they're just going to come and hang out. And then they get started promptly at 10. And then they finish by 11:30 each week at least. And so maybe you've seen this card, and this is a shares what they're going to be talking about the next two sections this fall, and so Sandy's got that planned out, and I think it's going to be outstanding. Again, here's a good thing, Matt, that's happening with that particular women's study is that the word is getting out on the island. It's not just in our church family. Yeah. We need a good news Jesus. Actually, that deals with evangelism. It's good newsing. It's sharing good news. And there's so many attacks towards the church in America today. It's becoming increasingly difficult for churches all across America. And so we need to be out good newsing the gospel and the local church, because God has placed this church, the Island Church, here on this island. We're thankful for the other churches in the area that are spreading the word. But there are men and women and boys and girls that need Jesus, and they need to grow in Christ likeness. And this can be an entry point, actually, or it can be someone to help them move forward in their faith. So a lot of great things happening in the life of our church.
That's awesome. So you said this Sunday we're going to be in the Psalms. Could you give us just a little peek behind the curtain, a little sneak peek of what God's kind of been teaching you and kind of speaking to you about what's coming up in the Psalms this week?
Well, I've really there's so many uncertainties in the world, and we've talked about this through a very series the last year, 18 months, and how the church is counterculture. And we know that the church is coming under additional pressure from the world and from culture. And they don't see the church. Typically, people in the streets do not see the church as part of the solution. Some parts of the United States actually see the church as part of the problem. And so to withstand that, we're going to need to understand we're in a spiritual battle. We're not a battle against people. And we're battle actually for people, for the eternal security. We have an enemy that's working against us. And so I've been around this idea of this theme. I talked about some things with waiting on God last week. And that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, when we get lost, Matt, I don't know about you. You get lost. I just want to speed up. I can just get lost faster and further. But I'm going to be probably looking at the area of just a faith and how does faith. It's one of the 5 dominant teachings in the Old Testament. Is how do you stand in faith? And if you stand strong in your faith, which is part of the armor of God, right? Righteousness and faith. You do this, then that allows you to withstand all of the ebbs and flows of society and the cancel culture and the antagonism toward churches across the country and those types of things. And we're going to need to be people of faith. You know, the early church was persecuted. David was challenged. So we talked about that last week, but the early church was persecuted, and the church survived and has actually thrived in the middle of that persecution. For that to happen, people are going to have to experience what we talk about with our tagline, real life and authentic faith. And so the real life is in Christ, and we want people to authentically live out their faith. The idea of a church culture, just because it's a nice thing to do, is to get engaged with the church. That is struggling in America. But authentic faith that's lived out is a testimony to the community. We're going to try to connect with them on Saturday night at the petting zoo and the popcorn and other bounce house and other things. But they want to see this faith lived out. And so I'm going to be sharing. And I think God's speaking to our church in this area just to walk in faith when we even can't see. That's the very definition of faith.
Well, I love it. So many exciting things coming up. Sunday, petting zoo, back to school bash, women's ministry, everything is happening in the life of the church right now. So if you're watching this video, be sure to go to islandchurchtv.com. Check out everything happening there. All the events are posted. If you want to register for anything or get more information, that's always a great resource for you. And if you like these videos each week, you want to make sure you stay up to date on them. Either you can check your email or you can hit the subscribe button here so that you'll get notified every time one of these new videos get posted. Pastor Will, thank you so much for just keeping us updated on what's going on in the church, sharing your heart with us, and we'll see you back here next week.
Sounds good.